I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. My name is Allison, 32F, and I've been married to Jake, 34M, for 7 years. We met during our sophomore year of college at a mutual friend's party. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was helping in the kitchen, trying to salvage a batch of burnt cookies, when Jake walked in. He took one look at the smoky mess, laughed, and offered to run to the store for more supplies. We ended up spending the whole night baking and talking, completely forgetting about the party outside. From that night on, we were inseparable. Jake was always the life of the party, charming and outgoing, while I was more reserved. I thought we balanced each other out perfectly. After graduation, we moved in together and started building our life. Jake got a job at a startup tech company, and I began working at a local nonprofit. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony in my parents' backyard. Our life together wasn't perfect, but I thought we were happy. We had our share of arguments, usually about Jake's long work hours or my desire to start a family, but we always worked through them. Or so I thought. Last week, I discovered something that shook my world to its core. It was a regular Tuesday evening, and I was tidying up our home office. Jake had been working late nights recently, preparing for a big product launch. I was straightening up his desk when I accidentally knocked over his laptop bag. As I picked it up, a small, leather-bound notebook fell out. I didn't think much of it at first. Jake often jotted down ideas for work, and I assumed it was just another one of his brainstorming journals. But when I opened it to put it back, I froze. Inside were detailed accounts of Jake's encounters with various women, complete with dates, names, and even ratings. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. The dates spanned our entire relationship, even before we got married. There were at least 15 different women listed, some with multiple entries. I recognized a few names, co-workers, friends of friends, even one of my cousins, Megan, who had stayed with us for a week last summer while she was job hunting in the city. I felt like I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. Jake and I had always been honest with each other. We'd even had conversations about fidelity early in our relationship. Jake had been cheated on by his high school girlfriend, and he always said how much it had hurt him. How could he do this to me? I sat there for what felt like hours, reading and rereading the entries. I kept hoping it was some kind of sick joke or a writing exercise gone wrong. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The details were too specific, too personal to be fiction. When Jake came home that night, I confronted him. At first, he tried to play it off as a joke, then as a fantasy journal. But when I started quoting specific entries, his face fell. He admitted to everything. Jake begged me not to leave him. He said he had a problem, that he'd been struggling with sex addiction for years. He talked about how the pressure at work had been getting to him, how he turned to these encounters as a way to cope with stress. He promised to get help, to change. But all I could think about were the years of lies, the betrayal, the humiliation. I packed a bag and left that night. I'm staying with my best friend, Sarah, 31F, who's been incredibly supportive. Sarah and I have been friends since high school. We were roommates in college, and she was my maid of honor at my wedding. She's always been there for me, and I'm grateful for her support now more than ever. Jake's been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between apologies and accusations. He's even shown up at Sarah's place a few times, forcing us to call the police. It's like he's a completely different person from the man I thought I married. I'm lost. I thought I knew Jake better than anyone, but now I feel like I never really knew him at all. How could he do this to me? To us? We were talking about starting a family soon. We had even started setting up a nursery in our spare bedroom. Now, I'm wondering if anything in our relationship was real. I've always been independent, but Jake and I built a life together. We have a house that we bought 2 years ago, a charming craftsman with a big backyard where we talked about our future kids playing. We have joint accounts, mutual friends. The thought of untangling all of that is overwhelming. But staying with him seems impossible. How can I ever trust him again? I haven't told many people yet. I'm embarrassed and ashamed, even though I know I shouldn't be. I keep replaying our entire relationship in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Was I just willfully blind? I remember times when Jake would come home late smelling of perfume, claiming he had been at a client dinner. Or the times he'd be overly protective of his phone. But I always trusted him, always gave him the benefit of the doubt. Jake's family has gotten involved now. His sister, Emma, 29F, called me yesterday. Emma and I have always been close, we even started a book club together last year. But now she's trying to convince me that Jake's behavior was just a phase, that all men struggle with fidelity. I was furious. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a moment of weakness. This was years of calculated deception. I'm considering my options now. Part of me wants to just walk away from everything and start fresh somewhere new. Maybe I could take that job offer in Seattle that I turned down last year to stay close to Jake's family. Another part wants to fight for what's mine. After all, I put my career on hold to support Jake's ambitions. When he got the opportunity to join the startup, I was the one who encouraged him to take the risk. I took a lower-paying job closer to home so he could work the long hours needed to get the company off the ground. But mostly, I just feel numb. The future I thought I had, the home, the family, growing old together, it's all gone. Replaced by this horrible reality where the person I trusted most in the world has been lying to me for years. I guess I'm looking for advice, support, or maybe just a place to vent. Has anyone been through something similar? How did you move forward? I feel like my entire future has been erased, and I'm not sure how to start rebuilding. Update 1: It's been 3 months since I discovered Jake's infidelity, and a lot has happened. I wanted to update you all because your support and advice have been invaluable during this difficult time. After my initial post, I decided to take some time for myself. I extended my stay at Sarah's place and took a leave of absence from work. My boss, Karen, 45F, was incredibly understanding. She even shared that she had gone through a similar situation in her first marriage. I needed space to think and process everything without Jake's constant attempts to contact me. During this time, I also sought legal advice. I learned that Jake's infidelity could potentially impact our divorce settlement, especially given the duration and extent of his affairs. My lawyer advised me to gather as much evidence as possible, so I went back to our house when Jake was at work and retrieved the notebook, as well as made copies of relevant emails and text messages I found on our shared computer. Going back to the house was harder than I expected. Everywhere I looked, there were memories. The kitchen where we used to cook Sunday brunches together. The living room where we'd have movie marathons on rainy weekends. Even the garden we had planted together last spring. It all felt tainted now. About a month after I left, Jake's behavior took a turn for the worse. He started spreading rumors among our friends that I had cheated on him, which is why I left. Some people actually believed him, which was incredibly hurtful. Our friend Tom, 33M, who Jake and I had known since college, even called me to ask if it was true. It was a wake-up call about who my real friends were. Jake also drained our joint bank account. Fortunately, I had already moved most of my personal savings to a new account, but it was still a significant financial hit. My lawyer is addressing this in our divorce proceedings. On a more positive note, I've reconnected with my family. I was hesitant to tell them at first, but when I finally opened up to my parents and siblings, their support was overwhelming. My older brother, Mark, 36M, even offered to let me stay with him and his wife in their guest house while I figure things out. I took Mark up on his offer and moved out of Sarah's place last month. It's been good to have family around, especially as I navigate the divorce process. Mark's wife, Lisa, 34F, has been particularly supportive. She went through a divorce herself before meeting Mark, and her insights have been incredibly helpful. Living with Mark and Lisa has also given me a chance to spend more time with my niece, Sophia, 4F. Her innocence and joy have been a bright spot in these dark times. We've been having weekly art nights where we paint and draw together. It's been therapeutic in a way I didn't expect. As for Jake, he's still trying to reconcile. He started attending Sex Addicts Anonymous meetings and keeps telling me how much he's changed. Last week, he sent me a long email detailing all the ways he's working on himself. Part of me wants to believe him, to think that maybe we could work things out. But then I remember the notebook, the years of lies, and I know I can't go back. The divorce proceedings are ongoing. Jake is fighting for a 50-50 split of our assets, despite his infidelity and the fact that I sacrificed my career advancement for his. It's frustrating, but my lawyer assures me we have a strong case. I'm slowly starting to rebuild my life. I've returned to work and even started taking a photography class at the local community center, something I've always wanted to do but never had time for when I was with Jake. It's not easy, and there are still days when I feel overwhelmed by sadness and anger. But I'm taking it one day at a time. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again when there are significant developments in the divorce proceedings or my personal journey. Update 2: Hello everyone. It's been another 3 months, and I wanted to give you all an update on my situation. The divorce proceedings are still ongoing, but we're making progress. Jake initially tried to drag things out, hoping I'd change my mind, but he's finally accepted that our marriage is over. We're now in the process of dividing our assets. One major development is that I've decided to sell our house. Too many painful memories are associated with it, and I want a fresh start. My lawyer has ensured that I'll get a fair share of the proceeds, considering my contributions to our marriage. It was hard to make this decision. I love that house and all the plans we had for it. But every time I think about moving back, I remember finding that notebook in the office, and I know I can't live there anymore. I'm still living in Mark and Lisa's guest house, but I've started looking for my own place. It's both exciting and terrifying to think about living on my own again after so many years, but I know it's an important step in my healing process. I've been looking at apartments closer to the city, near my work. The idea of a shorter commute and being closer to the vibrant city life is appealing. Work has been a welcome distraction. I've thrown myself into new projects and even received a promotion last month. It feels good to be recognized for my efforts, especially after years of putting my career second to Jake's. My boss, Karen, has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole process. She's become something of a mentor to me, helping me navigate office politics and encouraging me to take on more responsibilities. As for Jake, he's still attending his SAW meetings and has started seeing a therapist. Part of me is glad he's getting help, but another part is angry that he didn't do this years ago when it could have made a difference. He's asked to meet and talk things through, but I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe someday, but not now. The photography class I mentioned in my last update has become a real passion. I've made some good friends there, and we often go on weekend photo walks together. It's nice to have a hobby that's just for me. Last week, I submitted some of my photos to a local art fair. I don't expect to win anything, but just putting my work out there feels like a big step. I've also started dating again, very casually. Nothing serious, just coffee or dinner here and there. It's strange to be back in the dating world after so long, but it's helping me rebuild my confidence. Last week, I had dinner with a guy named Alex, 35M, who I met through a mutual friend. It was nice, but I'm not ready for anything serious yet. There have been some tough moments too. Jake's family is still trying to pressure me into reconciliation. His mother called me last week, crying and begging me to give Jake another chance. It was hard, but I stood my ground. I reminded her of all the pain Jake had caused and told her that while I appreciated her concern, my decision was final. Overall, I'm doing better. The pain isn't as raw as it was 6 months ago. I still have moments of anger and sadness, but they're less frequent. I'm learning to trust myself again and to believe that I deserve happiness. Thank you all for your continued support. Your kind words and advice have been a lifeline during this difficult time. I'll update again when the divorce is finalized or if there are any other significant changes. Update 3. Hello everyone. It's been a year since my original post, and I wanted to give you all a final update. The divorce was finalized last month. It was a long and often frustrating process, but it's finally over. In the end, I received a fair settlement, including half of the proceeds from the house sale and a portion of Jake's business assets. It's strange to think that our 7-year marriage has been reduced to a stack of legal documents and a division of property. I've moved into my own apartment. It's smaller than the house Jake and I shared, but it's all mine. I've enjoyed decorating it and making it feel like home. My photography hobby has evolved into a small side business. I do portrait sessions on weekends, and I've even had a few of my landscape photos featured in a local gallery. Last month, I was hired to photograph a friend's wedding. It was challenging but incredibly rewarding. Work continues to go well. I've taken on more responsibilities and am being considered for a management position. It feels good to be valued for my skills and hard work. Karen, my boss, has become a good friend and mentor. We often have lunch together, and she's been instrumental in helping me navigate my career growth. As for Jake, we've had minimal contact since the divorce was finalized. He sent me an email apologizing again for everything and wishing me well. I appreciated the gesture, but I have no desire to maintain a friendship or any kind of relationship with him. I heard through mutual friends that he's still attending his SAW meetings and has started volunteering at a local animal shelter. Part of me is glad he's making positive changes in his life, but I'm focused on my own path now. I've continued dating casually, but I'm in no rush to get into another serious relationship. I'm enjoying my independence and focusing on my personal growth. I've been seeing someone, David, 37M, for a couple of months now. He's kind and understanding about my past, and we're taking things slow. My relationships with friends and family have deepened over this past year. Sarah and I still have our weekly movie nights, and I've become closer to my siblings. Mark and Lisa's guest house became a second home to me during the divorce process, and I'm grateful for their support. Looking back, I can see how much I've grown and healed since that terrible day when I found Jake's notebook. While I wouldn't wish this experience on anyone, I've learned a lot about myself and my resilience. I'm stronger than I ever knew I could be. To anyone going through a similar situation, know that it does get better. It's not easy, and there will be tough days, but you're stronger than you think. Take it one day at a time, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Thank you all for being part of my journey. Your support and encouragement have meant more than I can express. This will be my last update. It's time to close this chapter and focus on the future. Wishing you all the best.